Hi, this is Todd Olthoff, and welcome to another edition of Screencasts Online. This week we will take a look at a freeform creation and project management application called Curio 11 by Zengabi. Curio is a freeform notebook with just about every tool you can think of to help you take notes, brainstorm ideas, collect research, and organize your tasks and documents. Curio is a powerful tool that includes the functions of many standalone applications, allowing you to focus on the task at hand without having to worry about switching applications for different aspects of your project. Curio also includes a well-thought-out GTD-style metadata system to help you track projects and deadlines right within the application. In this screencast, we will attempt to cover as many of the tools as we can to give you an idea of how you might use Curio in your own situation. So let's get started by looking at the installation and setup of Curio 11.